Yeah, the LA metro area has 18 million people. Exactly. Hassan, I'm in Pasadena. The air is poison. Yeah, the air is not good
fire emergency in California. One of the
areas where there's obviously still active fires happening, where they're like working to try to suppress and contain. But yeah, let's get started on it. Let's get started on it pronto. Let's get started on it ASAP. I'm gonna blast off. I forgot that I usually blast off. I'm live. I'm alive. Let's do it. Okay. LA wildfire fires blame game. Who or what is to blame? Suspect arrested. Okay. Suspect arrested. Trump criminal sentencing. Trump criminal sentencing. Wait, really? Yeah, there's someone was arrested, yeah, under suspicion of arson. Can you talk about the billionaire family that owns all the California water? I love when people watch TikToks that go viral from More Perfect Union and then they come in here and they're like, hey, can you talk about that? It's like, yeah, of course, I've talked about it already. I've talked about it before, you know? Trump criminal sentencing, TikTok SCOTUS ban, and later Sean O'Brien will be on to talk about labor action under Trump. Get in now. Richmond, Virginia has had no drinkable water for days. Yeah, I briefly covered that as well. I mean, I briefly talked about it as well, but we'll get to that too. I'm happy that TikTok is going viral though. Like, I mean, I'm glad that people are seeing that and recognizing that, you know, anger and resentment towards the Omega wealthy that have designed this system in a way that benefits their bottom line, and in a way that puts their profits above the well-being of average American citizens is good. You know, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Have you reacted to Leo Skeppy basically saying LA is Squid Games right now and the homeless people have been plotting? Yeah, I think like the Treatlerites are pretty crazy. Like, the person arrested was not accused of arson. That's interesting. That's what everybody is like. That's what everyone has been going through it. Yes, the Fivio foreign situation is funny as well. We've already talked about it. There's so many conspiracy stories right now. Yeah, the Treatlerites are going nutty mode. You know, everyone is looking for a million different reasons. Like, there is one of the many different fires could have potentially started by arson. I'm not going to make that assertion immediately without seeing some serious evidence. You know what I mean? But regardless, yeah, this is homeless man with flamethrower suspicion of arson near LA's Kenneth Fire after residents detain him. Yeah, but that's New York Post, chatter. Like, that's New York Post saying it. KTLA saying man detained near Kenneth Fire, not accused of arson. I think I probably trust local news over New York Post, which is a dish rag propaganda outlet. But we'll look at both. Like I said, I'm not immediately going to discount the idea that like one of the are you boycotting, and what do you think about the boycott? Boycotting what? Independence says arson. Okay. Jay Mershon. Update the Los Angeles arson investigation. LAPD says after interviewing the suspect last night, there was not enough probable cause to arrest the man for arson. He was arrested on felony probation violation. The investigation continues. This is the latest update. If the Los Angeles Police Department is saying that like there's not enough evidence to suggest arson, then I'm not like I said, I'm not discounting that it is arson. Okay, that arson may have played a role in one of these fires or whatever, but I'm gonna need some evidence before I make this assertion. Anyway. While you were away, I watched Noam Chomsky's movie, All Governments Lies, Crazy Histories It Repeats Itself. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's blast off. Do we have a blast off meme or not? I sent one, but I got blocked because I can't link right now. Ultimately, the ignition source doesn't explain anything about the conditions conducive to historical wildfires. If you want the actual scientific understanding of why this was even possible, I mean, I covered it extensively. It's the Santa Ana winds and the way that they operate. It's the extremely dry, supposedly wet season that has gotten historically low amounts of rain, and the fact that normally in this time frame, you're not supposed to have wildfire season. Like wildfire season will extend into like November sometimes, but then this is the time frame where rains are supposed to happen, or at least some rain is supposed to happen. So there's a little bit more moisture, except it has yet to happen, which is why this winter has been particularly dry, which is why when it's dry, you have more fuel. Okay. Remember the three things necessary for fire: air, fuel. I forget the third thing. You can't deal with air, but you have to deal with the fuel. And the way to deal with the fuel is obviously by doing your very best to... What? I'm not using that. That's a crazy meme, dude. This is insane. Excited for tomorrow with Sean. Don't forget to bring him to Jason's concert. I'm not using that as a meme, dude. Stop. Okay. Okay, I like the fire marshal one. That's funny. All right, we'll use that. Okay. All right. It's also because of the Santa Ana winds. Yeah, I know. Anyway, let's blast off. Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs, let's blast off. Bro, I'll be saying something on stream, and like a second later, a chatter will repeat it. Like straight up in the same process of me. Are you regretting logging on? No, because I do actually feel the need to cover the news, especially when there's a lot of attention on this particular story. It's happening in my backyard. And also, not only is this a major news story, but there's a lot of people that are utilizing this major news story to push whatever their own personal interests are, push whatever their own agenda is. And it's gotten to a point where I think a lot of people simply use whatever major news story is happening to redirect the attention, basically just push whatever marginalized group they hate, like whatever group that they hate, that they despise, they make it out to be the villain. And considering that this is something that is a considering that this story is related to climate change, which it doesn't have like immediate tangible associations where you can't just like look at it and go, oh, this is A to B. Climate change caused this. Like it creates opportunities for opportunists to lie in whichever direction that they want to. If you hate black people, you say, oh, they're looting, which is something that has taken place. If you saw on Twitter, there were people that were talking about how like black people were looting And it was actually a video from local news filming black residents actually taking out their valuable items from their houses before they caught on fire. You have, the Altadena neighborhood, which is so gross. Like you're looking at a situation where like these are people suffering, and you go, yeah, this is a great opportunity for me to do some racial agitation, right? I love that there's a chatter in here who's like, because they are. If you are angry and resentful about the existence of gay people, you look at the situation and say, oh, well, the fire department chief is actually a lesbian. So the reason why this is happening is because of DEI. If you hate the Democratic Party, you say, oh, it's Karen Bass who like personally lit the fires, basically. It's just, sometimes it's a combination of a lot of different factors, but of course, as is the case always, many of the factors that the Republicans point to are ridiculous. And some of the factors that liberal treatlerites point to are also ridiculous. And I will cover all of them extensively. But I digress. This is it. This is the blast off tweet. You were wearing a sports jacket while driving into a fire? Cancel this man. It's I'm gay is true. We love arson. Nice. But yeah. First and foremost, let's look at the new images that are showing the devastation from across Los Angeles from the wildfires. Obviously, this has gotten these wildfires have basically now the number of casualties is up to 10. The number of structures is in the thousands that have been burned down. You know, you have iconic landmarks, cultural landmarks that have now burned to the ground. And you have thousands of homes, thousands of places where people just lived. They're gone, right? 10,000 structures at this point. It's one of the most devastating wildfires. Will have the costliest economic penalty. And there are obviously some mitigation factors that were not implemented. But overall, everyone is trying to point the finger of blame at whatever they see is the real responsible party. So let's take a look at these new images and we'll talk about it. What landmarks? I've only heard of houses. Yeah. One of the houses in Altadena is one that my mom actually used in her dissertation that has a famous Orientalist interior architecture. It burned down. I think there was a couple different, like you got libraries and stuff that were burned down. The Pasadena Library, or not Pasadena, Pacific Palisades Library burned down. Yeah. Here, the Newsweek has a full list of his iconic landmarks destroyed in LA by the California fires. The Bunny Museum, Andrew McNally House is the house I'm talking about, which is so sad. Real Inn, Pearson Playhouse, Palisades Charter High School. It was a fully functioning high school. Topanga Ranch Motel. Will Rogers Ranch House. Yeah, the Will Rogers Estate. Altadena. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and also, as all of this is being burned into the ground, you have the likes of Poly Market taking bets on the Palisades fire in California. because we live in a horrible reality, a false reality. We are in a complete dystopia, but also lame. It's not just like a regular old dystopia. It's also not cool. Like, it doesn't have all the fixins of a cool dystopia. It's just like regular old lame dystopia. Anyway, Princess Teacup, thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
First natural disasters in that state's history. 8,000 firefighters and emergency personnel have been deployed, including the National Guard. Firefighters have poured in from all over the country to help. Overnight, officials said the death toll has now risen to 10 people. And a new fire, the Kenneth Fire, ignited in the West Hills. It quickly scorched nearly 1,000 acres in a matter of hours. I want to show you this map right here that shows the fires and evacuation zones. So far, 180,000 residents have been told to evacuate at some point over the course of this disaster. Some people are now returning what's left of their homes and neighborhoods, block after block. You see it right there, obliterated. More than 10,000 structures destroyed or damaged. The Palisades fire is the most destructive in Southern California history. It's burned an area larger than the size of Manhattan. Wow. Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman starts off our team coverage. Good morning.
I thought it was criminal for bandits to loot and raid homes that are impacted by the wildfires. Why are bandits trying to loot the Palisades? Why can't we stop bandits from loitering and looting? What are you talking about, brother? I have a lot of friends who have relatives who live in the Pacific Palisades, and they're reported bandits trying to steal and rob everything inside. Are these bandits insane, bro? I don't know what you're talking about, brother. I don't know. Like, do you see what the Palisades look like? Like, what are you talking about? What, you're making it seem like they're doing a WoW raid. Like, these bandits, they're in the tree line, sir. Man, just look at the footage. There ain't nothing inside that rubble. Yeah, like, Pacific Palisades is like an extra crazy place to say that this is actually what's going on. Like, I'm sure there might be some people, there might be some insane people that are like, oh, hell yeah, it's time to like raid this Rust base. But I don't understand. You're saying loitering and looting. I don't know what you mean by loitering and looting. Are you saying that people are loitering as in like they're just hanging out around the ash that once used to be a house? Like, what are you saying? Are they stealing the ash? I thought it was criminal for bandits to loot and raid homes that are impacted by the wildfires. Why aren't the cops doing anything? My relatives in the Pacific Palisades home got raided 2 days ago. What? Like, is your Pacific Palisade home standing? I don't understand. Because 75% of the house is burned to a crisp. Not sure why you pretend to be dumb as fuck. It's obvious what they wrote. I mean, they are. Why are you playing dumb? Because why would I entertain the fantasies of random people in a situation where 75% of the houses have been burned to the ground, and you're over here talking about how, like, there is a massive looting problem? A lot of this stuff is just people, is people communicating through whisper networks where, there are pre-existing fears of this sort of thing happening. Are they hitting the 25% that's remaining? Is that what's going on? Like, that's all he wrote. I'm just stating what's happening. Okay, now you're playing dumb. I understand what that person is saying, and I'm addressing that the likelihood of this becoming like a major problem is fairly low. People forget that 18 million people live in Los Angeles. And if you're arresting, like, let's say you arrested 20 people in a city like Los Angeles, where there's like 18 million people, you arrested 20 people, at least 10 of them were just hanging around in an area where they shouldn't be and they were suspicious. And then the other 10 were actually... What? How about Hunter Biden's house burned down? What are you saying? I don't care about the Hunter Biden's house burning down. What? Why do you care? What? How about Hunter Biden's house burned down? How come? You think that burned down for like a secret reason? You think Joe Biden did it or something? Or are you insinuating that there was like a pedophile tunnel And the why am I entertaining this conversation? Take a week off, stupid. They talk about it like there's hundreds of people raiding the remaining homes. Yeah. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is out of 18 million people, if they arrested like 10 people on suspicion of looting and like 10 people who were actually looting, I guess the remaining 25% of the homes that are standing in the Pacific Palisades, do you understand how unimaginably minuscule this problem is? And it's being overextended as though it's like a ginormous problem. It's being deliberately talked about. It is a self-referential cycle that the media engages in with regular frequency, where they overextend and exaggerate the problem of looting that's happening in any sort of crises in an effort to ensure that police budgets stay high. Ironically enough, we can have a conversation right now about how high the police budgets are and how that actually works directly against the existing fire department budgets that need to go up in a place where there are wildfires, and the wildfires are going to continue to get worse and worse as a consequence of climate change. But many of you are so quick to hit that reactionary talking point to be like, what are the cops doing? There's looting happening all over the place. And without recognizing, unironically, playing along with the same incompetence of the Karen Bass administration that you want to criticize. It's crazy. Also, they don't have to talk about the insurance companies taking away fire protection. Yeah, there's so many more important things to discuss here. And there are people being like, yeah, the DEI lesbian fire chief, that's the reason why it happened. Or there's looting happening. Why aren't you talking about the looting? Why are you secretly hiding the looting? Like as though it's a good thing. No, dude, it's not a good thing. Okay. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen ever. Okay. But in a major city like this, having like one or two incidents such as this one, and then a whole bunch of suspicion is not necessarily the smartest way to go about it. That's it. Okay. I hope the Forest Service will be able to use these fires and how impossible it's been to contain them as a way to get funding. Equipment is aging. Wages have stagnated for the past decade, and they're struggling to hire anyone. I made more washing dishes at a hotel than being a hot shot. I worked less hours and an infinitely easier job. I made more. It's disgusting how little wildland gets paid. PD steals so much money from the FD. I mean, wildland in particular is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. As far as I've seen, the like LAFD at least gets paid pretty decently, has a good pension. It's actually a very well sought after. It's a very well sought after position. The Los Angeles Fire Department jobs. They're hard to come by, incredibly competitive. You have to be in like peak physique. But as far as the wildfire firefighters at the federal level, it is ridiculous. It is genuinely shocking how little these federal employees get paid. Yeah, CAL FIRE has like 3x the starting wage at USFS wildland fire fighters. It's crazy. Just saw TikTok stating that the West Hollywood fire was started on purpose. I don't know. Please never say just saw TikTok. It was 50K when Structure was making 70K easily. All the wildland people go to Structure after like 2 years. Yeah. It's crazy because, hey, guess what, dude? Wildfire, especially in a place like Los Angeles, has a tendency to turn into a structure fire. But yeah, this is correct. What a random person is saying is correct from what I've seen as well. Sometimes as low as 38K is what I saw in terms of the salaries. How insane is that? Are 40% of the firefighting force actually from prisons? No, 30%. At its peak is from prison, yes. And they get paid $26 a day. Think about that. And some of them die. Anyway, it's just something to consider in terms of like what our spending priorities look like and how crazy it is. And also, I found out what the actual salaries are for daily for the private forces. There are private brigades, by the way. It's like a known secret. And I'll tell you how much they get paid. They get paid $7,000 a day. This is untenable. So if you're a firefighter from anywhere in the country, as far as I understand, and as long as you have your certifications, and then for Los Angeles, you need to get like EMT as well. Do the private brigades have their own private water source? I don't believe they do. So that one tweet about private firefighting service is real? Yeah, it is a real thing. I covered it extensively when Kanye West hired one for Calabasas a couple years back. But yes, they are a real thing. Do you think that the insane power that developers have in LA will be affected here? It is clear to me that some of the devastation of the properties are due to deregulation of building code, particularly related to wildfires. Yes. That's also a massive part of the puzzle as well. Yeah. If you're finding yourself in the throes of reactionary looting law and order narratives in the midst of this like unimaginably devastating wildfire, okay, remember that you are doing the bidding of these guys who personally think that it's important to consistently keep paying cops more and more, keep expanding their budgets, and sometimes that those budgets are directly at odds with other budgets. Okay? Let's keep going.
Matt. Yep.
Hey, George, I want you to see behind me there is a house that is now fully engulfed. We are still...
What is this? Saw something about how their companies are already trying to buy up some of the land burnt homes. Not sure if it's true or not. Of course it's true. It always happens after every fire. It happened after Lahaina. If you recall, there are always opportunists that try to buy low in the immediate aftermath, knowing full well that there are always going to be, even in a place like the Pacific Palisades, there are always going to be people who simply have they don't have enough money. They can't wait for the insurance payout. They have to sit in their rental property that the insurance is paying for, that the insurance is subsidizing, and they see an opportunity. They see an opportunity for that land to go away, and they're like, okay, this is it. I need it. I'm desperate. There are always vulturous people that take advantage of these situations. The other thing that a lot of people do is also put out incredibly high rental properties. They've already started popping up in the Mar Vista area, in the Santa Monica adjacent neighborhoods, where single family homes that used to be rented out for $15,000 a month. These are pretty large single family homes, just understand, similar to what you're seeing in like the Pacific Palisade area. Now they have doubled the rent. Yeah. There are single family homes that are going for like $10,000 a month to $15,000 a month. Now they are on the market. They are on the market for $30,000. $30,000. $15,000 a month is crazy. That's so cute that you guys are so oblivious to Los Angeles real estate, Los Angeles housing market. Yes, dude. Yes. Single family homes in Los Angeles in the rental market are like $15,000 a month, $10,000 a month. Yes. Like, why do you think the house I live in, that every single person that has visited has said is like a normal house? And I couldn't understand why there was so much hubbub around it. Why do you think it was 2.7 when I purchased it? because the LA housing market is bricked, okay? It is so broken. Jamie Lee Curtis comparing the LA wildfires to Gaza just shows the detached view of the reality of these celebrity champagne socialists. Why is has Jamie Lee Curtis ever said she's a socialist? What are you talking about? No, she's just an out of touch Hollywood actress who quite literally posted a photo of Gaza famously in the beginning and said, look at this is what Israel looks like right now. And then everybody was like, Jamie Lee Curtis, that's Gaza. You posted Gaza while defending Israel. Who do you think is doing that to Gaza? It's Israel. And she just deleted that post and then never said anything about it ever again. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Anyway. It's funny to think that it's like, you know, socialism here, though.
Still seeing homes burst into flames here days after the initial fire passed through. Fire crew just arrived here for the first time. We were here just before them. They are aware of this. They are trying to pounce on each one of these fires as quickly as possible because I want you to see, I don't know if you can, maybe we'll keep pulling up a little bit. And I'll have Juan, our cameraman, and our second camera, Will, here show you the embers shooting up in the air. That is a concern. Those embers get fired up, cast downrange, hundreds of yards, and with a strong wind, even miles downrange, and they start new fires. Now, we're going to keep going down here because we talk about these numbers and you see some of those fires up close, but you can't get a sense of the scale of what 10,000 structures destroyed in both of those fires, Eaton and here Palisades fire, looks like, what 10 fatalities seems like when we talk about whole neighborhoods until you see it on the ground. And the only way to really see it is drive through to see those naked chimneys with nothing around them. The playthings and toys of children just completely disintegrated here. And this goes on block after block on both sides of the street.
Nah, bro, I see a lot of opportunity to loot, man. I look at this and I think to myself, well, time to loot. Meanwhile, the real looters are the insurance companies. The real looters are the agribusiness interests that have absolutely gutted water management in this state. The real looters are the Los Angeles Police Department that takes up so much of the limited resources that your taxpayer dollars actually fund. And you're over here thinking about, like, you're fantasizing about like a random scary Guatemalan guy looting the ash out of this house that is like eviscerated, not realizing that that in and of itself is actually a continuation of the same structure. Okay, that right there, when you talk about looters and how devastating and how scary it is, acting like this is a ginormous problem. And I'm not saying that there isn't a single person that has, tried to use this as an opportunity to steal. But if you consider the situation, if you consider the 18 million, if you consider the tens of thousands of structures that have been destroyed, and you think to yourself that, oh, there's like some serious looting happening.
As far as the eye can see.
This morning, those new harrowing images revealing the scale of the damage in Los Angeles.
I don't know how we're going to come back from this. I don't even know where to start.
Across the county, more than 10,000 structures destroyed, and overnight the number of fatalities jumping to 10.
Mars would be more habitable than this place right now, so it's crazy. There's absolutely nothing.
Once densely packed neighborhoods, now smoky wastelands.
Pacific Palisades, right now, could just be taken off the map. There is no Pacific Palisades.
But trickling back into this hellscape were families hoping to salvage an heirloom or a memento.
That is the living room. That's the front entrance.
This is for everybody.
Beyond that, there was a bedroom.
In the rubble of a condo building in Pacific Palisades, we meet Gail and Mario.
Is this your safe?
It is. Wanted to get to it before the looters got to it.
Gail fled with just her nurse scrubs, a phone.
Wanted to get to it before the looters got to it is crazy. Like, everyone's brains are broken, dude. Like, everyone's brains are broken. I swear to God.
And little else.
The documents, passport, things like that
Nothing.
are somewhere here.
Yeah. Everything.
The widow hoping her wedding ring had survived this inferno.
Wow.
Mario pushed the safe off the building, then cracked it open. And for a moment, Gail held her breath.
These your rings?
Yeah, my wedding ring.
There it was, still glittering.
Very cool.
Quickly, police on the hunt for looters came to investigate.
How major of a concern is looting here?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And then you.
Dude, that's crazy. Of course the cops are going to say that. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Dude, that is... Oh... It's so funny because under any other circumstance, you would recognize exactly what's going on here. You know what I mean? But when it comes to like reactionary propaganda, the media totally is like, yeah, you're right. This is a huge deal. This is a serious, ginormous problem. That's why you need all the budgets, actually. I'm so glad that you got all the budgets. Okay? It's a tacit endorsement of the ridiculous funding structure that exists in Los Angeles. Okay? It is a way to basically say, fear not. It's not the LAFD that deserves more of those funds. It's actually the cops, because they're stopping the scary looters. Remember, they're stopping the scary looters. There's a lot of income inequality here. Okay? There's a lot of poors out here. Maybe the poor started the fire. You never know. Maybe they just hate it. Maybe they just hate the rich. That's why they started the fire. Please, no matter what you do not look at the situation directly in front of you. Do not look at the mismanagement of funds. Do not look at the mismanagement of resources. Do not look at climate change being an accelerant in all of this. Don't do it. Bro, I swear the looting is literally happening. I've personally dealt with them today. No, bro, I work in security here in Malibu. We had 6 looters this morning. Like, dude, Hassan, I've literally kicked out 6 dudes on bikes that were trying to start looting. I'm a security guard here in Malibu. Okay, once again, I'm not saying that there is no looting happening, okay? I'm talking about how much people are hyper focusing. Also, dudes looting on a bike, like, no, they're not looting, they're just messing around. You know what I mean? Like, they're being annoying. Some of them might actually want to steal shit. Your job is to basically make sure that they're not anywhere near you or anywhere near the property you're supposed to be guarding. Oh, you know, okay, if you say so, King. I'm not saying let him on the property, dog. I don't know what's so hard to understand. Once again, there are 18 million people living in Los Angeles, okay? Like, are there going to be opportunists? Of course there are, okay? Just like I'm not discounting the notion, that it could have been arson, at least for one of these fires. Oh, my God. My point is, we have this bias often, okay? We have this bias where, like, we get primed into thinking that anything and everything that we see might actually be in line with the preconceived notions that we have of society. Calling them opportunists is so dark. I don't know what else to call them. They are taking advantage of a situation that of a crisis if they are actually trying to steal stuff. The point I'm trying to make is that it is marginal, okay? It is marginal, but the reason why you hear about it nonstop is for a nefarious purpose. The reason why that's the only thing you hear about, and then that actually shapes the way that you see what's going on in your own backyard, that causes you to think every single person that you don't really recognize might be a looter, is because there is a scary, insidious, propagandistic purpose to constantly thinking about looters in the aftermath of natural disasters, so that you never question why the cops get more money year over year and why the fire department doesn't have that same unlimited budget. That's it. And people refuse to understand it. They'll come in here and they'll be like, oh, looters though. It's like, I get it. Okay. I'm not saying that they don't exist. But the real reason why they're hyper focusing on this narrative is because twofold. One, if it bleeds, it leads. It's great clickbait. And two, it's a way to constantly make you afraid. that there are a tremendous number of villainous figures that are poorer than you, that want to do horrible violence to you all day, every day. And that's precisely the reason why you need cops. That's precisely the reason why you need multiple billions of dollars, more tanks for the cops.
You have $1 million homes all intact, rows and rows of them. And there's really no way to police this area effectively right now.
At least 20 people have been arrested for looting and checkpoints.
Hasanabi, it's a huge problem. 6 looters, bro. Chatter told them to leave, and then guess what happened? They left. Stop downplaying this real serious business. True. My bad.
Where? So right now, that young man on...
We do need cops, though. We don't need to sub anymore since you don't run ads. Can you address that? Yeah, I can. You don't need to subscribe anymore, but you can. If you would like to. If you'd like to do so. At the top of the hour, nonetheless. Even though there are no more ads. I don't run ads any longer. I can in the future. Maybe you'll be able to avoid them in the future. Why does the media run with that narrative? I 100% agree with. I'm just confused about the media's angle because it's more entertaining and interesting. Just as it is more entertaining and interesting to talk about Paris Hilton's house being burned down in Malibu than it is to talk about the black middle-class family in Altadena losing their nest egg and everything that they worked their entire lives for. And that's precisely the reason why people look at the situation and go, oh, it's all rich assholes who lost their 8th house. I don't care. Fuck them. That's the whole point. The media is not covering this in that way specifically because they want to draw resentment and ire towards the victims of a massive wildfire. They're doing that because that is a narrative that's cool and interesting and unique. And these guys want to make things unique and interesting. Okay? That's it. That is the primary goal. And this isn't the entirety of the media because I do have to give a lot of credit to local news and even mainstream news in general. They've done a tremendous job aside from like the, insane looting is happening everywhere. We have to start killing random people and it's probably arson narratives. They've done a tremendous job, accurately and in real time giving you information that you need. This is one of those moments where you have to remember, like, this is why local media matters, okay? This is why local news is incredibly important. Think about it. Think about what you see on Twitter. Think about your Twitter timeline, how malleable it is and how silly it is that you have to scour through basically multiple scrolls worth of scrolls worth of your timeline on Twitter to arrive at like accurate information in real time. As opposed to local news, okay? As opposed to mainstream outlets that are in real time offering you real-time coverage about what's going on. Zylex, by the way, thank you for the 50 big ones. Sorry, I didn't get to address that, but thank you for the 50 gifted subs. Allowing 50 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Follow your streams daily because you talk the most sense. I just figured I'd let you know what I had to deal with. I can go fuck myself though, chat. Okay, don't get mad. And chatters, don't be annoying, okay? Don't be annoying to the guy. He's just giving us his own perspective. The looting fear is just so overblown. The cops need to set up a perimeter anyway, since most of the area is still dangerous. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like there is a role for police here. There is a role for police, as I pointed out when the fires were happening. They're there to redirect traffic and ensure people can't get into these areas, okay? They're there to make sure that everyone can evacuate safely. They're there to ensure that people can't go back to their houses by force if necessary, to stop them by force if necessary. Because when you allow random people to go in through the cordon that you, the area that you cordon off, you're creating a worse situation for emergency services. You are now a potential victim that needs to be saved. You have a car that is potentially blocking the emergency services that might need to use that route. So cops actually do play an important role here. They just don't really do that important role. It's not about stopping the looters. There are plenty of places where the police force play a important role in crisis management in times like this. The issue, however, is that they rarely do the job that they're supposed to. And then they just sit around and talk about looters all day and about arson and about homeless people potentially like lighting these fires or whatever.
The motorcycle, the motorbike is being pushed away by the officer. He sort of blew through this checkpoint here, and immediately they pounced and chased him.
Susan Campick Tracy and Madeline Dam among the dozens who walked here in the hopes of being escorted back.
So I don't get it. So do we have any updates? Is the guy in the motorcycle actually, do we know that he was a looter? Do we know that that was his goal? Or was he just an interested party that wanted to see what was up? Or maybe even someone who lives there and wanted to go back home? No, he was driving a motorcycle. So the automatic assumption is that he is a looter. This is what I'm saying. It's like, walked up to a random car and yelled at them. They said, I live here, but I'm scared all my neighbors and avoid eye contact. So how could I know? Anyway, here's their license plate. These guys are casing the Sunset Firehouse looking for a score. I approached them and I said, I don't speak English. I live here. He doesn't live here. They're professional looting rings, operate an organized entity. That is insane. That is insane. I'm losing it, dude. Who the fuck loots on a motorcycle? You can't carry anything? I know.
Back to their homes.
I've been in this since Tuesday. I've got the same socks. It's like everything is the same.
Oh, they got the, yeah, see? They got the looter. They got the scary looter in the back. Look, look, look.
I've been in this since Tuesday. I've got the same socks. It's like everything.
There he is. In his like $30,000 e-bike, by the way. Like, what's the higher likelihood that he's a looter on a bike? They're not 30,000. I think these are like 10 grand or something. The Segways are crazy. The new Segways are like 35 grand. The electric bikes. Maybe he just looted the bike too.
It's like everything is the same.
It's almost like at this stage of my life, when I thought I was at the end of the marathon, I'm at the beginning of a new marathon, and we have to create everything from scratch.
They got the call, jumped in the car, and off they went. Just a few minutes later,
It's apocalyptic. It's like someone's dropped a bomb. There's cars burnt out. There's ash everywhere. We were thinking it was going to be bad, but I think we both had no idea how bad it was.
like so many grappling with the loss of almost everything.
If I could only have found one thing, this was it. It's the bell that we have at the front of the house, and it came.
Like, look at this, dude. Look at, like, what are they gonna loot from this house? Look at the conditions of the house, dude. The bell outside the house looks like that. What are you gonna loot from that house,
From
Chatter?
my husband's childhood home in Somerset, England, and it's damaged, but it's alive.
These satellite images showing the immense size and scope of the
Like, yeah, you know, opportunity, baby. I can't wait to loot the ashes.
devastation.
You're completely out of touch on this. Looters are an issue, though. I don't know if you're genuinely trolling right now or trying to push a narrative and an agenda. You're completely out of touch on this. No, I'm not completely out of touch on this. I'm stating that while there are opportunists in times like this, the media greatly overemphasizes the danger of looting in a situation where what is there to even loot in the Pacific Palisades? 75% of all standing structures have melted. Okay? %75. Like, hyper focusing on this and causing you to be suspicious of every single person that's in your immediate vicinity people that say, "Oh, I'm not duped by mainstream media narratives," immediately get duped by mainstream media hyper focus on certain incidents and certain issues in the immediate aftermath of a wildfire. Okay, where 75% of all standing structures have been destroyed, and only because it corresponds to their reactionary attitudes that they have and the fear that they have in their heart about the unknown, about the other, about like the vicious nature of man, that where they go, nah, you're out of your element. I'm not saying that there aren't people that would try to do such a thing. Okay. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that people are greatly overemphasizing this aspect.
Where there were once sprawling communities, now a wasteland surrounded by areas splattered in red fire retardant. This picturesque coastline obliterated. Haze.
That's the other part of this, okay? Yeah. You know what's crazy about the looting in this situation? They're gonna get cancer, dog. If they go into the flame retardant sprayed houses, okay? That's an incredibly cancerous material. So even if they were to go to a standing structure, they're just gonna get they're putting a death sentence on themselves, okay? Don't believe your lying eyes. There's totally like a million looters out right now. I know. And it's interesting because like the media keeps constantly saying this, but there's just like never really any hard evidences to suggest that this is a ginormous problem.
Obscuring the scene below.
Oh, look at the flag.
And there, that tattered flag covered in soot, waving at half-staff among the debris. Of course, the greatest loss,
I have to pee.
Human lives. The New York Times reporting 82-year-old Rodney Nickerson and retired pharmacy technician Erlene Kelly were among the dead. And 66-year-old Victor Shaw.
And I opened the front door and I just yelled in, "Victor, we got to get out. This is it. We have to get out. The fire's here." And I didn't hear him say anything. I heard him say nothing. So I ran to the car and I just got out. I just got out and I went down the street and there was a police car and I flagged him and I said, "My brother's in the house. I need help." And he told me to get out. He said, "Go."
His family later finding his body with a garden hose in his hand.
And I couldn't be here. I couldn't be here to save him. I couldn't be here. That's what hurts the most.
So we've now driven onto Sunset Boulevard, the iconic main thoroughfare in the Palisades, and you can see this is the downtown business district. It's obliterated. This goes on block after block. Now, the LAPD tells me they're going to be going through these neighborhoods. They believe there are more fatalities here. Firefighters say it's going to be weeks before they finish mopping things up and days before people can actually come back home. Now, this is Fire Station 69, one of the few buildings here still intact. Those firefighters putting up a massively valiant fight for so many days, but with those red flag warnings ahead, much more work for them left to do here. Michael.
Well, our thoughts are definitely with everyone there.
We're going to turn now to the Eaton fire. That's another big one around here, and it is still burning out of control. 0% contained northeast of LA. This is the area around Pasadena, and as I say, no containment at this hour, 0%. Chris Van Cleve is in what's left of Altadena. Hard hit it was. Chris, good morning.
Have you ever considered that I'm just racist? Stop making me defend this position. People looked at me weird if I said DEI, so I just have to adjust my wording for each made-up crisis in my head. Yeah. LA city officials have contacted LA mask block members for PPE resources. No joke. Yeah, I heard about this. I think Mother Jones is going to be covering this as well. They literally, after potentially considering a statewide or a citywide mask ban, LA, the LA municipality reached out to like a disability activist group to get some masks. It's crazy. Yeah, they tried to do mask bans, and now they want them for from predominantly disabled to POC people doing mutual aid to a fundraiser for that. PPE just straight up bought it out of pocket. I mean, I don't mind like a predominantly POC disability activist like giving whatever they have to the city. It's not like an unreasonable request. It is unreasonable because it exists. Like it is unreasonable that like this need exists. Okay? Like, they should have masks. How do you not have masks? How do you not have respirators? Like, it makes no sense. It's crazy because it's a city with 18 million people. Okay? California as a state is like the fourth largest economy on the planet.
Tony, fire trucks are stationed all over Altadena. There are two poised about half a block from us right now. Is there still a lot of concerns about wind and hot spots? Smoke is hanging like the sense of loss over this community as people come home and find scenes like this.
Now into its fourth day, the Eaton fire's devastating path leaves behind only scars of what remained before. At least 5 people are dead.
Someone on Twitter is being in my reply saying climate change didn't cause these fires. Instead, it was white colonialist hubris. I know indigenous groups and activists have been complaining about how indigenous populations used to do controlled burns back in the day in order to avoid some of the more devastating aspects of these wildfires. And there's some truth to that, except, you know, it's I mean, there is some truth to it, from what I understand, but it's also environmental groups as well. I'll tell you this much, okay? Murat works with a lot of people that work for the BLM, okay? The Bureau of Land Management, that work in forestry, okay? And from what I understand, the people that they hate the most, the number one people that they hate the most are Republicans. The number 2 people that they hate closely after the Republicans are also some, not all, but some conservationists that approach all of these issues with a tendency where they approach a lot of these problems with an attitude where they're just like first and foremost predisposed with stopping certain things like prescribed burns from happening. You know, that sometimes get in the way. I think it's just arson, to be honest. No, sometimes get in the way of like doing forest management. There is some truth to that. They obviously hate the Republicans first and foremost because they're insane. But they are also personally, as far as I understand, sometimes annoyed by the conservationists as well, because sometimes they can be the friend who's too woke that gets in the way of proper forest maintenance. San Diego Zoo Ecology is here. He's spot on. Yeah. What materials are these houses made out of? If the fireplaces are still standing, why not make the whole thing out of bricks? Clueless Brit here. I truly have zero knowledge. Okay, the other part about the urban sprawl that exists in these places is that like there are a lot of conservation, not conservation, but there are a lot of fire management stuff that you need to do year round that Los Angeles has done only sporadically. Part of that is due to the mismanagement. Part of that is due to lack of funding. Like if fuel is the most significant contributor to the, accelerated wildfires, then there's supposed to be, for example, some restrictions in terms of what kind of trees that you can have, where those trees can be, how close those trees can be to your house, for example, and consistent management of dry brush outside of your homes. The state and local municipalities are supposed to ensure that they have proper upkeep to make sure that there is all matter of like dry brush is kept clean and away from these houses. I'll give you another example. You're not supposed to put your car in your driveway when there is a wildfire happening. But a lot of people get scared and they don't know what to do, so they put their car in their driveway. Guess what? That's an accelerant. It's filled to the brim with gas. It's going to blow up your house. It's going to light on fire, and that fire is going to hit your house, and it's going to blow up your house as well. Okay? It's basically like putting a bomb in front of your house, like close to your house. Okay? This is another thing that people don't understand. That's why it's so crazy when, like, one of the funniest things that occurs in the aftermath of wildfires like this is people who just, like, don't simply understand certain things, where they'll be like, why are the trees not on fire, but the cars were all on fire? This is confusing. It's like, dude, it's because trees have water in them. Like, that's, yeah, of course, a tree that has water in it, okay, is not going to engulf itself in flames. Whereas a car that has oil, gas, and numerous other accelerants is going to light on fire. Every part of a car is flammable. EVs also burn terribly. I'm saying cars. That's why I did not say EVs don't burn. I said cars specifically. I'm not talking about the distinction between an internal combustion engine versus an EV battery. But like BLM still does a lot of controlled burns. There are like 30 plus controlled burns right now in the NorCal Tahoe areas, according to Watch Duty. I just don't think LA expected a fire in the winter, but this hopefully will be a lesson for the future, so there can be more controlled burns year round. That or arson, much smaller likelihood. Yeah, I'm just saying that there are instances where like conservationists will sometimes get in the way of proper forest management. I'm saying that it does exist. First and foremost, though, the number one problem always is coming from Republicans that want all the water to go to like agriculture, agribusiness, or rich neighborhoods, or whatever the heck the current Republicans are yelling about right now.
Including 82-year-old Rodney Nickerson.
He said, Altadina's been through some stuff and I'm going to be all right. We didn't think that it was going to be this bad, so fast and so quick.
I just cry. I just can't believe that it's happened.
66-year-old Victor Shaw also died in the fire. His sister Sherry says he was found with a garden hose still in his hand.
What are you going to miss most about your brother?
Well, he's family. It's, when you lose family, that's
devastating.
It's hard. He's been with me my whole life, Big brother has been there from day one. I'll miss his companionship. I'll miss talking to him, joking about traveling with him, and I'll just miss him to death. I just hate that he had to go out like that.
For many, it's a different kind of loss, one that looks like this. The scope of the damage soared Thursday. Officials say between 4,000 and 5,000 structures have been damaged or destroyed, a number that's expected to rise even higher in the coming days.
When you saw this, what went through your mind?
I've lost everything.
Nira Chow returned Thursday to find her home reduced to a pile of smoldering rubble.
I don't even know how we can get in there.
As we helped her sift through the ashes, she made a discovery.
Does that mean something to you?
Oh my goodness, yes, of course.
What does the church mean to you?
The church means community, means God is good and faithful, that he will help us to rebuild.
The National Guard is now on the streets with stepped-up police patrols because of those looting reports, many of them happening here in Altadena. We're also hearing residents going back to their homes and arming themselves to protect their belongings. It is just an enraging lack of human empathy that's been playing out here in Altadena, Tony.
That's the word for it, Chris. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
At least 10 people, we're sorry to say, are now confirmed dead by the medical examiner. At this hour, 5 separate fires. 5 are still.
I have the commentaries on the looters. Yeah. Looting the ashes, dude. Look, looting footage. If you change the subtitles, it looks like looting to me. Yeah, look. As I said already, the real looting that occurred beforehand was the mismanagement of funds from city officials. The real looting that came beforehand was always and will continue to be from private equity. The looting that will come afterwards, the looting that came beforehand was the insurance industry saying we're no longer offering fire insurance in these areas after being on it for years and years. And the looting that will come in the aftermath of all of this will be private equity purchasing as many of these plots of land as possible. Okay? It's not a pivot. It's just the truth. But we don't have the same, it's not as interesting to cover the issue in that regard because it's nowhere near, it is unfortunately nowhere near as like exciting as the prospect of like scary poor people that are, engaging in predatory behavior. Half the accounts posting about looting aren't even in the United States of America. It's been fascinating to see the trajectory of the Israeli OSINT analysts over the past couple of years. They've gone from masquerading as objective news source while parroting pro-Israel disinformation to now just shamelessly engagement farming racist clickbait like this. Yeah, open source intel. Reports of lots of looting in Los Angeles right now. WTF. It's a KTLA 5 news coverage where it's residents evacuating their home and their friends are helping them move their possessions, as previously reported by KTLA 5. I'm Jay, originally from New York, now living in northern Israel. I report on world events, breaking news, and open source intelligence sharing, analysis, and commentary along the way. Check out the Gaza Most Wanted cards I created. Grab hoodies and merch here, zionmerch.com. They're just shit-slinging disinformation without even passing attempt at it appearing legitimate at all. Fact checks and communities notes have absolutely no effect. They just get their engagement and move on to the next bullshit post. But it works. It works because there is understandably a pre-existing fear of this sort of thing. Oh, there is understandably a pre-existing fear of this sort of thing. So a lot of people are, I think, just, kind of going off the whims. Anyway, the other aspect of this is also arson. A lot of people have said that this is like meth heads and tweakers that are just doing arson because they saw that there was a lot of wind and they wanted to blow up the city with the hopes that maybe they could steal, I guess. I don't know. They're like, they're always thinking 2 steps ahead, those tweakers. And so far, there's not a lot of evidence that this is the case, with the exception of like some of the fires being really far away from one another. So like the wind conditions carrying like embers to create spot fires so far away from one another seem unlikely. But we'll see. We'll see. There will be obviously investigations as to how these fires started, and we'll find out what was the responsible party, what was the main cause, aside from the fact that the historically dry, wet season in Los Angeles, Southern California in general, was a major accelerant.
Burning across Los Angeles County, some still at 0% containment. That includes a new fire called the Kenneth Fire. This in the Woodland Hills area of Los Angeles. Now that's just north of the county's largest fire in Pacific Palisades. Take a look at these images taken from above. Devastation as far as the eye can see. And then, of course, the unimaginable loss. Officials estimate as many as 10,000 structures have been burned. Nearly 180,000 people under evacuation orders today. Tony, as you know, is in Pacific Palisades. He's been there all week, leading a team of correspondents across L.A. County. Tony, I can't get enough of the coverage that you and the team are doing. And every morning I wake up hoping there's going to be some good news, but the loss is still so devastating. The news still so dire. Good morning to you.
Gail, good morning. There is some good news. We're going to get to it in a moment.
Not discounting the fact that climate change is to blame, but I'm a meteorologist for NWS Jacksonville, and LA had above average rainfall this year in season. No, you're talking about the last rain season where they did have above average. But this, at post-November, no, you're talking about last year's rain season where LA did not even have above average. They had flooding. Okay? That's the last rain season. This rain season, we have had significantly less rain so far than normal. Brother, I'm a NWS Met too, and it's dry as hell here. Also, even flooding last in the last rainy season is not good either. Yeah, here it is. Gobsmacking. Southern California has been off to one of its driest seasons on record. Downtown Los Angeles received just 0.16 inch of rain since October 1st, compared with normal total of 4.56 so far, according to the National Weather Service. I already have your link, man. I already have your link, Bygo. Calm down. I'm going to ask him. We're not talking to Sean O'Brien yet. It's in a couple hours. Obviously, I've seen California fires be really bad in the news before. Wondering if this series of fires is getting so much coverage because this fire is hitting more homes rather than just straight forest. Normally, a lot of the fires that take place in like NorCal can be really devastating, right? But they're not in like, this is the most costly fire in California. Okay. This is the most costly. What is this? New hater video drop? I don't understand. What? Why would you send this to me? Why would you send this to me? Take a week off, 40-month subscriber. It's got it's a 900 view hater video. 40-month subscriber. Is there a link between climate change and increasing in risk of severity of wildfire in California, including the still unfolding disaster? Yes. Is climate change the only factor at play? No, of course not. So what's really going on? There's rarely, if ever, a singular cause of complex disaster, so don't be fooled by disingenuous strawman binaries. I mean, this person is correct. For wildfire encroachment into high-risk areas, historical land management and climate all matter to contextually varying degrees. What is the primary link between climate change and wildfire, both in California specifically and more broadly globally? Vegetation moisture, and therefore its flammability, which includes propensity to ignition, combustion, intensity, rates of spread, etc. With climate change, we see warming, but also widespread increase in atmospheric thirstiness, i.e. evaporative demand, vapor pressure deficit. A warmer, thirstier atmosphere means potentially drier, more flammable vegetation. It's the fuel. It's what the firefighters call the fuel. Okay, dry brush, and less moist vegetation means easier to catch on fire. The increase in atmospheric thirst is actually caused by same underlying thermodynamic process driving increases in precipitation intensity with warming. In a new paper, coincidentally published today, we introduced the analogy of the expanding atmospheric sponge. The expanding atmospheric sponge effect conveys consequences of air's increasing water vapor holding capacity. Not only can larger sponge yield more water if saturated and wrung, but its absorptive capacity increases even if there's no water to absorb. Critically, this means the expanding atmospheric sponge can increase vegetation aridity, hence flammability. even in the absence of regional precipitation decreases. In fact, this can occur at least episodically, even in places that see mean precipitation increases. So even if there's more rain, if the environment is sucking up more of the moisture, even if the environment is sucking up more, if the atmosphere is sucking up more moisture from the air and from the trees, it can outcompete the actual rainfall as well. What about California specifically? Previous research finds large increases in summer and autumn conditions favorable to extreme wildfire spread. A doubling between 1980 and 2020 due to temperature, humidity, autumn precipitation trends. Now, it's absolutely true that many distinct ecological and fire regimes exist within California. Fire season is generally much longer in Southern California versus Northern California and can sometimes extend into winter. Also, there's a greater proportion of grass and brush fires in SoCal versus NorCal. In fact, in coastal Southern California, where grass and brush, including chaparral, are predominant vegetation types, there is actually a historical relationship between wetter winters and increased fire activity in following fire season. Why is this? Many ecosystems in arid and semi-arid regions are effectively vegetation biomass limited when it comes to wildfire. In other words, the abundance of grass and brush varies according to moisture availability year to year. More moisture equals more biomass, potential wildfire fuel. Hence, there is literally more fuel for wildfires following wetter periods with lots of vegetation growth in grasslands. Yeah, wetter periods create more readily available grass. And then when all of that moisture is sucked away, that turns into dry brush that can easily engulf in flames and spread. Mishma, thank you for the 25 Get to subs. As opposed to the forests, which are usually more moisture limited and born more extensively and intensely during droughts. However, in a warming climate, we are seeing broad global increase in what the term hydroclimate whiplash, and thus increasingly frequent and or intense swings between extremely wet and extremely dry conditions. This is literally what happened last time around as well. This is why I was saying, like, there was flooding that took place and then incredible drought. Climate change basically accelerates weather conditions, it supercharges weather conditions. When you got rain, you got too much rain, and then you can't even use that rain, especially because the infrastructure is not permissive to utilizing the rainfall anyway. And then you have tremendous drought afterwards, and it extends and makes the wildfire seasons longer and significantly more intense. In grassy and brushy settings, wet antecedent conditions favor increased growth and fire fuel, but transitions from unusually wet to dry, hotter and thirstier atmospheric conditions favor increased growth and then increased drying of said extra abundant vegetation. Yeah, also arid soil absorbs less water than healthy soil. What is this person saying? We're talking about climate change. So your take is that there aren't people breaking into homes in evacuation area? I have friends and family who have seen their homes and their Ring cameras being looted. How are you able to say that? I'm going to lose my mind, dude. Why are people so annoying about this? Like, I'm over here talking about climate change. They're like, dude, shut up about climate change. Are you literally like a fossil fuel giant or something? What's happening here? Are you in the pocket of ExxonMobil? What's going on? I'm over here talking about like the systemic factors at play in why wildfire seasons are longer in the state of California and specifically Southern California, and how certain aspects of mismanagement in terms of the vegetation can create these uniquely dangerous, uniquely damaging wildfires. And this guy's like, dude, who cares about that? Please shut up about that. Please talk about my neighbor who saw in a Ring camera, a scary individual. They're looting. You're pro looting. I'm not. Okay. Like, don't worry. That attitude that you have in your brain, that little reactionary in your brain, will create infinitely more opportunities due to, one, income inequality, and two, more climate change related disasters. So there will be significantly more looting coming your way. Okay. Don't worry. It will become a reality eventually. It will become a very real reality, much more so than like the suspicions that you have. Just keep hyper focusing on the looting that's occurring. You know what I mean? in 2024. Okay, this is climate change is not expected to increase the frequency or intensity of the Santa Ana winds. It may even decrease them eventually, though that would mainly occur in January, February at a high level of warming and be less relevant to fire risks versus the October to December period. However, that's not primarily what matters here. The main issue is the overlap between critically dry vegetation season and strong dry wind season due to decrease in autumn precipitation, increase in overall evaporative demand, and that overlap is expected to increase. TLDR, climate change, while certainly not only relevant factor, has indeed increased risk of extreme California wildfires. The main reason is increasing temperatures and atmospheric thirstiness, but increased precipitation, whiplash/seasonal shifts is also an emerging factor. That attitude, as you call it, is understandable given that it's happening as you speak. I hate having this conversation specifically around like issues that are emotionally charged, because one, like this is literally also happening in my backyard. It's ironic because it's not dissimilar to the extreme crime panic narratives that blew up all over the media. And people would be telling me about like the unlimited amount of crime that's taken place literally in my neighborhood. Like dudes from Ohio would come into my chat and be like, dude, you're just stupid and lying about like the insane crime that's happening in your street, on your street. Literally, I am telling you right now, there is crime happening right in your neighborhood. And I was like, dude, you're insane. Please shut up. Okay. This doesn't mean that there isn't crime happening all the time. In big cities, in major cities especially, there's crime happening all the time, of course. Okay, just like I'm saying that, I'm sure that there are opportunists that are trying to take advantage of the situation. The overemphasis on looting, on the other hand, coming from not even people that live there, but specifically people from outside looking in, with a network of individuals that have, told a friend of a friend of a friend that they saw on their Ring camera a suspicious figure that is like in and around their houses or whatever, turns into this ginormous story. It's funny because it's never stopped. This notion that like in the aftermath of wildfires or in the aftermath of like natural disasters, always looting panic, always and forever. This after Katrina as well. Chris Kyle, America's Sniper, famously lied about shooting random survivors off the top of the Superdome. He sniped them, he said, in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. That's how crazy this stuff is.